So Q&A,
Mm.
and you got a couple of questions, haven't you?
Yep.
And I got a couple of questions. Do you want to go first, my good sir?
Yeah, sure. So I'll look. Is training to failure necessary for hypertrophy, or is it overrated, counterproductive?
What do you think?
I think I think it can be overkill to a degree. If you're always pushing failure on everything. And I think it depends on the level of the trainee. I think beginners are like criminal for undercooking it and going nowhere near failure. And I think in some cases, more advanced trainees potentially overcook themselves on it.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I think if you're always training to failure, you're always going to be but that's wrong actually, because if you go into failure with light weights, it's not going to do much at all,
Yeah,
you know? So, and that's what a lot of people do, they kind of they go to failure all the time because that's what the new research guidelines say.
yeah,
You should be going to failure, but actually, when you look at it, you'll see people in there, yeah, sure, going to fail, and then they're still pretty fresh because they haven't meaningfully introduced stress to their body. Now, if you're always going to failure with meaningful weights, then yeah, you're going to be overcooked, and
mm,
you're going to be you're not going to be able to have longevity in this, at all. So
yeah,
that's not productive either. So really, when you look at the place of failure in training, it's just a byproduct. It's not something you seek.
mm,
It's not something you search for. It's just a byproduct of the process.
yeah.
So
Progressively overloading is going to come around, isn't it?
sure, yeah. So you're literally just you're in a sensible framework
Mm,
that ensures that you're lifting with correct technique, progressively increasing the stress, and then failure might be a byproduct of that,
yeah, yeah,
as
definitely.
you naturally push your limits, and that's the place it plays. Now, the closer, one thing I will say about failure is that the closer, so say, if you're in a set of five. And, the first rep in a heavy set, you're going to recruit a bunch of multi units. And that's the beauty in strength training and heavy lifting,
Mm,
because from the very first rep, you're recruiting a ton of multi units.
mm,
As this is different from failure, so this is accumulating fatigue, so it's slightly different. But as the reps go on, to maintain your ability to produce force to get the other reps done, your body has to pull in new motor units because for the first couple of reps, you've fatigued those motor units that you've recruited. So
yeah,
as the set accumulates in fatigue, your body recruits new ones, and now they are undergoing a stress. So there is a benefit to accumulating fatigue within a set, but that's different from just isolating and chasing failure, because that in of is by itself can be unproductive.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So yeah, that would be my thoughts
that's a good
anyway.
explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. With all the talk about total hard sets, driving hypertrophy, what's the highest weekly volume you've seen work long term without burnout or injury? And where do most people go wrong chasing volume? Do you want to answer this one, mate? Or
You crack on with that's the one for you.
I feel like I ranted on that failure one then a bit then. And, like I'm curious actually because I haven't talked to you about this.
Mm.
Like, what is your thoughts on volume? Like, do you have a kind of an idea? Like, how do you go about deciding your sets? Is it from experience? Like,
For me
yeah,
now, if I'm training a client or for myself.
both.
So, for myself, I think I've talked about this a gazillion times, so I'm not necessarily looking to like hypertrophy isn't my main goal when I'm going in the gym. I'm trying to get as strong as I can, obviously. But for me, that usually looks like two hard working sets particularly at the moment when I'm more of my focus is on, well, especially within my lower body. So my lower body is two hard sets on a squat, two hard sets on a an RDL, an audit curl, whatever it be that I'm doing. And that's it. And I call it a day there. But
Mm.
upper body, I might do a bit more volume. So I might push up to three sets. But I personally, I don't go above that. And I don't program above three sets for anyone because
And why more volume with upper body over lower?
um, just because I find, yeah, my upper body isn't getting taxed across the week with anything else really. Um,
Mm.
like, any sports I play are just lower body dominant. So I can tolerate more work there.
Yeah.
So typically I will have two like I train full body, but so two of those sessions will be loaded, like usually chins and dips, and then I would usually have like a third session in the week often that I'll go in then and that'll just be solely body weight. So that's I guess more like skill based, but it'll be on like gymnastic rings and stuff. So I'm accumulating volume, but at a lower intensity.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a good way of approaching it for sure, and my whole approach on volume is built on experience,
Mm,
you know. So basically what I've found to have worked best, like the first of all the roller volume, right? The roller volume and volume in of itself is just a means to an end.
mm,
People wondering what volume means. Yeah, all volume means is total amount of sets and reps,
mm.
basically, right? So we don't go above 5 reps really
Yeah.
anymore. I've talked about that. I just think anything above five, you're not creating a meaningful enough weight to disrupt your homeostasis.
Hmm.
Um, So we don't go above that. Now we can adjust intensity and stuff like that, sure, for fatigue management. And then for sets, we're in the three, well, 1 to 5 set range.
Mm.
And it really depends on, kind of the intent of the training at the time, I found through experience that um 3 sets works best because there's not so little sets that you aren't getting enough volume to reinforce the adaptation
Mm.
to solidify the adaptation. But it's not so much that you start to fatigue and junk volume starts to come in and stuff like that. And I think anything above 5 gets really, really tough. If you're
Above
training
five
with
sets, you mean no? Or
yeah, five
yeah,
sets,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Because you just it's tough. It's like if you're training properly,
Well, you've got to
the
use the load would have to be too light to start with, really, wouldn't it? Or you're going to
to
have to drop
maintain
the load
quality.
considerably. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And that's the problem. That's what people do.
Mm.
They say, "Oh, what you on about, Sam?" Like, I do 7 sets of 6, and well, that's exactly the problem, right?
Yeah, but
Like
not at a high threshold of weight intensity. Yeah.
not with enough quality.
Mm.
And I actually had an argument. Funny enough, it's written down here because I was going to talk about this. People saying, "Oh yeah, when you have like huge amounts of volumes, that's more stimulus and more chance for
Mm.
you to actually create more of a stress in the muscle."
Yeah,
But if you've got a quality stress, then you cannot continue to deliver a quality stress over and over and over again. That's the point,
yeah.
like of a quality stress. Is that it's so stressful that you can't simply repeat it, especially the
Mm.
more you advance, you know. But there's people out there that think you can do 8 sets and with quality, and they're not lifting with enough stress to begin with,
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
much of anything. So that's my philosophy there, and you know, the upper body and lower body, we tend to keep it similar
Mm.
because it's all relative, isn't it? It's like, like sure, obviously you get in more systemic stress with a squat, say, and it's
Yeah,
all total body. Um, but I think the same principles apply pretty much where,
yeah.
three sets, you only need enough to reinforce the adaptation, beyond that, just kind of, so we keep it the same for that reason,
Mm.
you just need enough to reinforce. Deadlift, we tend to pull back a little bit on with volume because of the weights and the back fatigue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Here's a question for you. I'm sure I know the answer to what you're going to say anyway, but you'll hear this is like I've heard it. I haven't heard it for a long time, but I did used to hear it in the past. People like coaches programming exercises, different volume based on the muscle fiber makeup of that area. So like our hamstrings being a predominantly type 2 fiber, so we train those with lower reps. Another body part being more of a type 1 fiber, so we train that with high volume. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that's
so
nonsense or
what's the logic behind it that you like?
well, I
What's
guess
the reasoning?
um so looking at hamstrings being more type 2 fiber like dominant, so
Oh, it's
then
more explosive.
yeah,
I
so they're
got
going
you.
to
I've got
fatigue
you.
quicker
Mm.
versus I don't know, a more slow twitch muscle located somewhere else in the body. Can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm not sure. And so therefore they are more fatigue resistant, so they can tolerate more volume. That's what I've heard in the past. I've
Mm.
never done it or something I've ever gone into that detail with, but I know I've heard it.
Well, a system like that would require that you train muscles and not movements.
Yeah.
So a system like that would mean that you train hamstring curls
Mm,
and you train leg extensions, but we don't do that. We don't
mm.
train those muscles in isolation. Yeah,
Yeah.
we train movements because movements are include the entire kinetic chain and train the muscles through its normal function,
Mm,
you know, which I actually think is necessary. If you're going to train, then you can't just continuously load a muscle in one of his functions. Like it needs to be a part of the actual system it was intended for.
yeah, yeah, I got you.
Um, so when you train that way, you don't have to worry about those problems,
Mm,
because the entire system's loaded,
yeah, working. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, your turn, mate.
All right. So look. Is the calories in, calories out model too simplistic for real world fat loss?
Hmm. Go on, sir.
Um, well, I think it's a starting point for some people who
Hmm.
have no, who what I would class as being a reckless eater. So when I say a reckless eater, I mean someone who their diet is filled with, you know, copious amounts of junk food. They eat they eat nothing of any kind of color, so fruits and vegetables, and they have no awareness of their overall calorie consumption, energy requirements. So I think someone like that, just getting a grip of how many calories should I be eating in a day, versus how many calories is my body roughly expending. I think someone like that, starting with calories in versus calories out, is a simple framework to get some grip on where they are, and then from there working on. Do I think that's the ideal starting point? And would I start someone just with that alone if they came to me? Absolutely not, because I will always, again, I wrote about this the other day. My aim is to give someone help them develop nutritional proficiency so they can long term know how to eat when they're round and about, whether it be making food at home, eating in a restaurant, grabbing food out. They've got an idea of like what good nutrition looks like, and that's
Hmm.
relative to their energy requirements as well. So I think you need some formal coaching and education on that. But for the layperson who is just, you know, be it in poor health or they need to lose weight or whatever, then yeah, then starting with just calories in versus calories out could be a decent starting point, far better than thinking, oh my God, I need to start eating clean foods.
Yeah, but I think that you're right. It's a necessary tool. I think, for a lot of people that lack that education.
Mm,
Because let's be honest, like, if you go into, I don't know, you're like an office where people work, right? And you say, okay, what I'd like you to do, we're going to do a test. I'm going to put a bowl light in front of you, and I want you to pour into that bowl roughly 100 grams of raw white rice.
Mm.
Now, how near to that estimate are they going to get? Not very close, most
No,
of them
no, no.
are.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you've got some food awareness,
Mm.
then you've got an education there around food quantities.
Mm.
And tracking can be a useful tool. Like it's never going to be perfect. And nor are we saying that you have to like get everything down to the decimal point because that isn't healthy at all. Like it is a tool that can be used to build that food awareness and give people an education that they haven't got. And actually, I do think people should go through that experience.
Mm.
Now I'm not saying that tracking like is the only way, but I think that if you lack that education, it's a really good way to be able to introduce that. Um, I do think I was chatting to someone about this the other day. I think that when you look at the basis of weight loss, then it is, of course, calories in and calories out, right?
Mm.
Like you just be denying um a base principle there, if you
Yeah.
disagreed with that. Like that is how it works. That is how weight loss works. But I think one thing that is missing sometimes on social media and stuff like that is that context can change things. And it is important to understand that context, right? Like, we were chatting about this, I think, a few weeks back too. Hormones, age, all of these things can affect how that equation looks for you. And
Mm.
it does change over time. Training history, is another big one. They can have an impact on that equation. And for some people, it can make it more difficult. But ultimately, that is what it comes back down to. If you're not losing weight, then that imbalance is somewhere in that equation. But it can be harder. I think that does get missed on
Yeah.
social media. At one point anyway, it was just count your macros, bro. Like calories in versus calories out. But I think it's important to add that. And I do think then that's where a lot of people do get frustrated, when people get, obviously uh, us or whoever's talking about calories in or calories out, is because that nuance is never discussed,
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's it's a good point you made about the rice and things like that because even if someone I spoke to someone yesterday and they were like they explained that tracking wasn't for them for for a couple of reasons. They thought, I know tracking isn't something I'm going to commit to. That's absolutely fine. But I think even if you don't want to track, then even if you just weigh your food initially, you don't
Right.
even need to be tracking it, but just again to have that awareness because like you said, rice is one, but cereal is a big one. Likewise with tortilla chips, someone I was talking to, the same person, they said, oh, my wife and I were having chili at home and I didn't want to have the rice because I feel the rice makes me bloated, etc. So I just had a few tortilla chips. And I was like, okay. And the goal was fat loss. I'm like, that's fine. The overall volume of food is lower, but the calorie consumption is so much higher from the tortilla chips. And I said,
Mm.
out of interest, just go and get the tortilla chips, put the bowl on scales, weigh out 40 grams, and you'll be thoroughly depressed with how little food volume that is for the calories. Most people, they just pick things up and they think, oh, it's just such a small amount of food, but unknowingly how many calories that contains.
Cheese. That's another
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like people will, I'll go, this is 40 grams of cheese.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people be surprised how small that actually looks,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean, if
not a
you're
lot.
grating that on like a baked potato or something, you'd be like,
Mm.
40 grams of cheese looks like nothing then.
Salads is another one where, obviously you have the everything that's in it, but then it's the sauce, the cheese that
Yeah.
people put on, or it loads of stuff that can bulk, and then people are like, oh yeah, I'm on salads now,
Yeah.
to,
I know.
and actually you're
Yeah.
looking at it and it's like a
Salad's like a
monster
pizza. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
calorie. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know. Anyway, um, let's have a look at this. Um, New research is suggesting higher carb intakes don't independently drive more muscle growth when protein and calories are matched. Does that change how you think about carb timing or carb cycling for hypertrophy?
Um,
I think just turn that to performance. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
so
what?
carbohydrates serve a couple of things. I mean, they fuel performance. There's just no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And also carbohydrates can be muscle sparing to a degree as well.
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean is if you're going lower in carbohydrates, then your protein requirements will have to increase.
Right.
Because yeah, so something called gluconeogenesis, so where your body breaks down, um, your body can break down energy for glucose. You if you're exercising or anything like that, you can't do that. You can't get that from fat or dietary fat.
Hmm.
So therefore, the more carbohydrates in your diet, the less central breakdown you're going to get of protein.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think with this question, sure, like, if you are keeping your protein high, then sure, apart from the point that you just mentioned, but generally you're gonna be able to maintain your muscle mass and stuff like that and potentially grow tissue. The
Mm,
problem is though, is that carbohydrates are essential for productive training.
mm,
Like anybody that has trained hard enough to know the difference between being carved up and not being carved up will tell you that. Like it is essential. You need carbohydrates.
yeah.
So sure, if you looked at it in isolation, maybe there's not going to be a huge difference in muscle mass, but actually for longevity with your
Mm,
training and progression, they are the macronutrient. Like you need
absolutely.
to eat
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
carbohydrates. That's why it's ridiculous. Like I did a post 2 days ago on this young girl. I don't know if you saw it, where she was talking about kind of how she was almost a victim to social media in a way, where consuming this content,
Eating disorder, wasn't it? And yeah.
yeah, and eating soda, and she basically had this issue where she wasn't fueling her workouts and all these
Mm,
things. And yeah, I think she had I forgot what type of fracture it was now, but it wasn't good. And this is a young girl, like, and I've heard stories, like, personally, of people that have consumed content,
mm,
um, who've got an eating disorder. These people, there was one person, and anyway, they go into dietitian's practice, and uh, yeah, they're like uh, told to eat a bowl of oats or something in the meal plan or wherever they give them. And
yeah.
like, oh, I can't because I've listened to X influencer,
Mm,
say that oats are bad for you. And
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
fucking hell. The other day I'd called another one out for saying you can't have a banana in a smoothie anymore.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like,
Yeah.
can you imagine, mate? I pop round to the house and I'm like, yeah, for every reason you're making up a couple of smoothies for us, which never happens.
Don't put the banana in there, James. Again.
Done whatever you do, because the polyphenols or whatever,
Yeah.
do not put the banana in. That's an
Mm,
eating disorder, mate. That's an
yeah,
eating disorder.
yeah.
Like, and you got these people out there like promoting this nonsense, and they're missing the forest for the trees. They don't understand. One, they're wrong.
Mm,
Like, there's trade-offs, and that's all there is with nutrition. Is you can drive yourself crazy if you look at every micro interaction in your diet.
yeah.
So it's just trade-offs. And two, like, they don't know, they're blind to the fact that they're actually creating more problems than they're solving.
Mm,
And it's a huge issue,
yeah.
massive issue. Statistics back me up too on
Mm,
eating disorders and social media. So yeah. Anyway, mate, do you want to call that one there?
yeah, yeah, sure.
Right, guys, if you enjoyed that one, leave that rating and review, and we'll catch you in the next one.